Alright, back again. Tee-hee-hee. Part 3. Jambalaya Jamboree. Think I can't come up with a rhyme, but I'll show you I can do it every time. Oh, man. So we're back for round 4? 3? Fuck, I forget what it is. You'd think I'd taken some punches by... mentally taken some punches from analyzing these rounds. Ah, no! The dreaded YouTube ads! Ah! Son of a bitch. Well, I guess we got lucky this whole time that we didn't get interrupted by these ads before now. But oh well, we're just gonna have to eat the ad for now. So here's an instant replay from last round, from round 2. Also, I'm dumb as fuck. This is Nevada State Athletic Commission. NSAC, that's what that means. And then I do believe the CR is the initials for whoever checked them. Both of them checked the gloves before the fight. So let's see. That's the big money first shot that Loma landed last round. And again, that second left hand did kind of land. Boosh! And then that's Loma shielding that left hook. And this is something I actually didn't talk about before, too. The fact that, actually, I wonder if you can see it from here. The fact that, right, the first time Teo throws this check hook, he throws it, and my god, look at the fucking flex. He throws it right after the first shot, right? But the next time when he does catch him with it, he throws it on a different timing at the very end of the round. He actually throws it as like after the second shot that Loma throws. And I wonder if that's because, yeah, you can kind of see it from here, right? At the end of this combination, after Loma throws his second left straight, look where his hand is. It's down. So ironically, even though Teo just kind of got punched in the face, a little right there, he sees that and is like, oh, your hand is down. I'm going to fucking remember that. And remember it, he does. And so then at the end of the round, when this similar exchange happens again, he throws that left hook, and he doesn't throw it right away. He doesn't throw it at the first thing here like he does. He throws it after the second shot, because that's when he realizes the opening is, right? And so here, again, see Teo loading up that right uppercut that totally whiffs, does nothing. But the left hook does kind of hit, because he right times it so that it's after that second shot that Loma has, and so that way it lands, because he's he's adjusted the timing, right? So again, we talk about that, right? Like, people making adjustments. It's not like nothing's happening in these fights, or in these rounds. Distressed lady is distressed. I think that's Teofimo's wife, but I forget. Probably was my guess. Both guys, cool tattoos. Biggest takeaway from this film study. Back to it. There we go. I have no idea what the fuck this thing is. Probably the ring mics to pick up the audio. Anyway, actually round 3, I think. Let's see. Yeah, round 3. So again, Teo doing what Teo do as he comes out immediately. The simple jab, right? That shotgun jab to push Loma back. And I wonder if that's because when he comes back to this like high, regular, like neutral stance that he has here, he likes to do this because it just pushes him, right? It literally just pushes him away, gives Teo control of the space and gives him control of Lomachenko, and keeps Loma on the end of his jab, which is where Teo wants Loma to be. So we'll see. Right, that's one of the ways. That's part of one of the other reasons I think why. I mean, it's just defensively responsible, and it's smart for Loma to do it anyway. That's the other reason why Loma does not just come back to this like high center position, or if he does, he slips right away, right? Because he's kind of recognizing, in addition to this, just in general being something that Loma does, and he does it to everybody just to see what they do, right? He comes back to this high neutral, high center position just to get people to punch at him. He's doing it because Teofimo likes to do this, right? So again, this is also like a little bit of a, not really an adaptation because like nothing is changing, but it is him playing off of his opponent, right? It's not just him just doing it because he usually does it. He is doing it because he normally does it, but he's also doing it because it's working, right? It's also playing off of something that Lopez is giving it. Right, so we see this, again, these are the sort of steps that Lopez was kind of taking in the first round. Again, right, because we talked a lot about, like, feet. These sort of, like, slower steps. And again, right, like, his stance, though, is tighter. The steps are smaller, right, because Like I said, she's making adjustments to how Loma is moving. And you can see Loma is now much closer. Again, look, pay attention to the feet, right? Always it's all in the feet. Now look how close their feet are, right? Start around 3. See how their feet have gotten closer and closer and closer. Like we started like here to here, and then last round it was like here to here, and now this round is like here to here. Very, very close. Right? So again, like Loma is getting closer, is getting in, is standing his ground more, is probing from this position a little bit with just a simple jab. Again, coming back to that high center position and letting Teo try to jab at him. And here again, right, like I didn't talk about it before, but you can see it in that highlight reel from the last couple. When he ducks down like this, that uppercut or straight right hand is like what he's loading up. And again, also look, paying attention to his stance this time too. This is what I was talking about before when I said Teo has a wide stance. This is what I meant. This kind of wide. This is when he's using it as like a true buffer. Because look at where his foot is in comparison to where his head is. Like, big difference, right? This is an extra shield layer of buffer distance for him. So that Loma cannot just get right inside and get into his kitchen and take all his food and eat his Oreos or whatnot. And he can still, the reason why, right, like he can tell, and part of the other reason I should say, like, why Teofimo does this is, has this, like, wide stance too. You can tell from his weight and how it's distributed that he's, like, dead center in the middle of his body, right? That he can still attack from here, as he does, right there, right? He can still jab and control space, move his foot outside. And again, you'll see Loma's immediate reaction to that. Again, right, not just panicking and backing up, just taking a small little step back. Wouldn't be surprised if Teo jumps all over him, though, because that's what Teo's been doing this whole time, every time he does that. And he kind of does, not jump all over him, but he does attack, right, which is what Loma correctly feels the pressure, reads with the slip outside. Again, paying very close attention for watching for that right hook. Surprisingly, Teofimo does not just punch him this time, though. Even though he probably could have. Again, right, both guys contesting that front foot space. Again, much closer this time. Right. Where he wants to be. Again, the heavy... Oh, hello. The heavy level change, and YouTube will be asking us a question about ads that we will skip. Oh my god, the ads are fucking murdering my soul. This is what I get for doing YouTube analysis for 2 hours in a row. The YouTube wants to just fuck me with ads. So we go back. Right. Again, the raise hand from Loma brings action, which is what he wants. And then now he's just trying to figure out, okay, what is it that he's doing, and how do I get around it? So he just kind of puts his arm out to shield. And again, this time, right, same look. Bring hand up, now drop. And Lopez, I think, almost like doesn't really know what to do with that, to some extent. Other than maybe jab. Right? And interestingly, you'll see Lopez is kind of dropping his weight, I think, because he liked what happened at the end of last round, where he dropped his weight, and he threw the right uppercut and the left hook kind of landed. And that's what he wants to try to repeat. So you can see, like, that's kind of, at least that's how I'm interpreting his stance. Part of his stance, at least. The purpose behind his stance right now. With how he's positioning himself coming out in the beginning of this round. And again, you can see Loma still trying to get him to bite on that timing. And now he's still getting it from Teo. He's kind of getting him to bite a little bit. And now, interestingly, he's backing up almost a little too much here, right? And he comes back in, but isn't quite... Yeah, so he's approaching now, like before we talked right about how, like, Loma does this disengage, re-engage, fake disengage, re-engage. This is an example of that, right? So look how he takes, gets jabbed, where is it? He gets jabbed at, right? Big step back with his left foot. Right foot comes back to his left foot. Right foot, like, kind of moves, left foot moves. Now he's actually back in range. Even though he doesn't look like he is, because he looks like he's so far away, his stance is just narrow. When this foot comes back out, he will be in range. But because Teo's eyes are really good, like I said, lesser opposition would fall for this, would just stand there, and then Loma would just jump all over them and beat the living daylights out of them. Teofimo was smart and sees this coming, because Loma's kind of just approaching straight up from too far away. And Lopez is able to react to it and move away from the pressure. This doesn't he doesn't do this all the time, or I should say Lopez doesn't do this all the time. Other fighters don't always react to this, which is why Loma does it, why he keeps looking for it, right? Because it does work sometimes. But this time it doesn't, because Teofimo reads it and correctly steps back, right? And again, loads up that left hook, or loads up that right uppercut. And again, Loma backing off, but still not getting too far away, not letting him still get too far away. But again, he's still farther away than he needs to be or than he wants to be, especially with Teo having a stance. Having a stance that's this wide. So he comes back in, and he's still kind of too far away, and Teo realizes that and is like, all right, let's keep you on the end of the jab where I want you to be. Right, and pushes Loma a pretty good distance away. But Loma, of course, right now, standing a little bit closer than they were before. Not as close as they were at the start of the round, so Teo successfully kind of pushing him back, but not too far out of the way. And again, now we still see them playing this kind of like timing game and like the up down level changes that they've been getting to before. And again, we see that probing fake hook from Teofimo, almost like he's trying to feel out again this like right slip to the right level change. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the round where Teofimo actually starts throwing left hooks around Loma's guard when he slips to the right, because I think it's soon that he starts doing that. And again, like I talked about, I think this actually might have been the first round analysis, right? Like, stepping inside on your opponent is not always a bad thing. Sometimes it's actually good, right? Teo is stepping in here on the inside to try to get that inside lane for that jab. And Loma reads it, and he blocks it. But, not necessarily wrong to step to the inside. Lead for dominance is good, but stepping inside can be good too. Loma is successfully staying away from the jabs so far, which is good. But as it stands, Teo is winning around because he's the only one being active. Not really sure what this jab is supposed to be from Lomachenko. Maybe? Oh, okay. Yeah, actually, I do recognize this. So this is... See this little rocking motion that Teofimo does, right? This step right here? This little bounce that he has, right? Like, that's what Lomachenko is trying to time. Usually what would happen here, right when Loma jabs, is that Teo is like, when he steps, he puts his weight on his back right foot, then he steps big forward with his left foot, then he like transitions his weight from his back foot to the middle to his front foot, and then he moves his back foot forward. So here, he had shifted his weight, Teo had shifted his weight to his front foot and was about to bring his right foot forward. Or at least that's what Loma is thinking is going to happen, right? And that's why he's throwing that jab. To keep him, again, like, in place, and also so that he doesn't attack coming forward like he's been doing, right? Or that if he does, he's going to jam that shot up. He's going to occupy the punching lane, so to speak. So that if Teofimo threw his jab right here from his hip, it's going to run into Loma's arm. It's not going to do anything. So that's why he's doing this. Again, both fighters are definitely like aware of each other in their timing. This is where, right, like what we talked about, this is where things start to get layers deeper now. You start to get really into the weeds. Again, the high guard mirror. This time we see Loma slip outside, come back to the middle again. Again, I'll be really surprised. I think I say this now. I'm like, I haven't watched this fight in a while, but I would be really surprised if this isn't the round where Teofimo starts to throw hooks around the guard, left hooks, because this has been a couple of times now. Loma slipped to the outside and has not really done anything with it or gotten away from it. Again, both guys about to step on the line. Again, Loma realizing Teo's got that left hook loaded up is like, fuck that shit. I don't want none of that. I'm bouncing right the hell out of here. Again, you can see Loma doing this thing where he comes up and comes back up to center and dips slightly to the right. Again, he's dodging that right hand. Though I will say, again here, Loma may be kind of being a little too afraid of his opponent's power. Although I guess because theoretically, Teo could throw the uppercut from here. I'm surprised that he doesn't... I should say this because it sounds kind of stupid to say it out loud. I'm surprised he doesn't move in and throw at least like a jab here. Because again, like, look at his hand. He could hit him. Right? He's in range. But again, he wants to respect Teofimo's power. And interestingly now, Teofimo doing the Lomachenko to Lomachenko, where he like Disengages, or looks like he's going to disengage, and again, he does his little tick where he pushes his shorts down. Comes back, looks like he's out of range, and then he's like, psych, bitch, I'm not out of range, I'm going to throw a body jab. And he's like, see, I can do it too. You're not the only one. And again, right, as soon as that back foot moves, he comes in. Lomachenko still, again, right, like we talked about before, what's the range? Lomachenko figuring out, what's the range I need to be at where I'm well outside whatever your, like, max range is. It's about right here. And again, right, like, talking about fast feet and reaction speed and putting your feet down quick, right? Like, this movement right here is actually him just reacting. Loma was not expecting this. He was not predicting this, right? Because watch. As soon as that foot comes down, his foot's actually coming up. And again, right, Lopez intelligently cutting off the ring, taking advantage of when his opponent's feet are in midair to try to attack him. Lopez trying to attack Loma when Loma can't do anything because his foot's in midair. But because Loma's feet are just that fucking fast, and he still has really good reflexes, right? He puts his foot down and boom, moves out of the way, or mostly out of the way, or at least partly out of the way, to get away from that jab. And right, like we said before, where Loma was like letting Lopez take the outside because he doesn't really care, because he's strong, committed in one direction, right? Like, even though he can jump right, that's an example of the kind of motion I was talking about. That he's like, oh, if Lopez does this lunging body jab, I gotta just circle back around. And even though he can recover fast, Loma is still able to get some positioning back, right? You can see him get back to almost center ring here, which is good for him, which is why he's like, he doesn't care as much if Lopez just kind of circles around him with that jab. And he also doesn't care because Lopez isn't really doing anything with it, right? Like, he's not doing what like Loma does, where he'll like jab, circle to the outside, keep circling outside, jab again, circle more to the outside, throw a left hand, right? Like throw a back rear hand punch. So that's the other reason why Loma's kind of like letting him get away with that for now. Again, you see both guys being defensively responsible. Loma dipping, and Teo, and you can see this kind of like windshield wiper motion here. Anticipating either jab to the body or something. Again, really going to be surprised if Lopez does not start throwing left hooks here, because again, that's like the 7th, 8th time Loma has slipped to the right in this round alone, and just not really done a whole lot with it. Again, Teo pinning that top hand to the body. You see a lot of small things. Oh, yep, here we go. This is one of the few times Teo has actually thrown, the first time I think he's actually thrown the lead left hook. Right? Not as a counter, like from leading, and as the first punch in a combination. He hasn't done it before now, right? Again, Loma trying to play with his hands to see, like, okay, what can I get you to do based on what my hands are doing? And Teo, again, not biting. Again, taking advantage of this position, right? That we've seen this a lot now, at least like 2, 3, maybe 4 times in the fight so far, where he leans forward, feigns this right hand, has the left hook loaded up. Loma doesn't do anything except back up. I thought that was the position that he left hooks from, but it's not. This is actually him taking advantage of something else, where he loads up his back foot and then leaps based off of that. And that actually looked like it was a hook. That wasn't just him trying to pull the left hand down. And then he throws, again, athleticism, right? This crazy left hook, and then immediately throws a jab and spearing right hand to the body again. And this time he wants to pin him to the ropes. Which is not where Loma wants to be, and he's not letting him get away like he was before. So again, taking advantage of these spots. And unfortunately, you can't really see what the heck happens here because the camera angle is so terrible. But it looks like Teo throws a left hook here that scores. Or maybe just glances off the glove of Loma, who knows. Let's see. But again, right, like Loma realizing that like after Lopez does those really long lunges, he can take center ring back. And he does. So he takes center ring back. Pretty easy. Again, both guys meet each other on the line. Again, Loma doing some interesting stuff here that I think he was setting up earlier with his head movement. Watch how he's moving his head, right? Like 1, back to 3, back to 2, then slips, then kind of pops, resets. Again, Loma doing the noodle dodge. Boop. And so, again, you see him start to kind of repeat these movements. And now he's doing something else, adding another layer in where he brings the right hand up and drops it, actually, to see, can I get him to attack off of that? And then again, slip right, slip left, slip right again, slip left to dodge potential right hand. So again, right now he's kind of like adding his defensive layers, doing 2 slips instead of 1. Interesting quote in the background here. Again, Loma probing, but again, not quite getting in range. Although, ironically here, right, their feet are close enough. Right? Ironically, because Teofimo stepped in. Lol. But again, Loma not just running away this time. This is what doesn't make sense to me. This probe here. This is kind of weird. Like, I don't know why he doesn't... Why he probes and then just kind of like backs up. Or maybe that's... maybe I think that's what he was actually looking for. Is he's trying to get Lopez, I think, to go first and then counter. And you can see by how fast he moves that that's what he's actually looking for. But it doesn't quite open up, which is why he backs out here. And unfortunately, then he's actually like, too far away, and Teofimo can punch at him and keep Loma on the end of his jab. And again, right, Teofimo doing a really good job cutting off the ring. Again, the athleticism and the speed. And he could have done this before, but this is where he really starts to do it and really starts to go in on Loma, kind of like he did in the very like first, second, or third round, right? Like as soon, again, as Loma picks up his foot, and as soon as he backs up and is at the end of his jab range, like, that's where Lopez wants him to be. So again, right, like we talked about people progressing their game plan. Like this is Lopez progressing his game plan now. Like, okay, now that I've kept you on the end of my jab, now I really want to try to keep you there and lock you in there and then just lunge at you with these big fucking shots and start winging shots at you. Right, so again, the right hand, left hook whiffs, but I think the right hand actually hits. Which again, right, this is what I mean by like cutting off the ring. Like he's pinned Loma here. And now when he tries to come to the left, come past him, he can't just circle back. And Lopez immediately reads and stuffs his right hand and pins it. And then yeets himself into that right hand to the body. And Loma's like, holy fuck. What was that? And again, right now, Loma like layering his head movement. Coming in with the dip and slip. Just a straight drop and a slip to the right a little bit. Coming in like he's going to probe low to the body, which is interesting. And again, Teofimo, right, both watching him, dropping with him. Kind of reacting to his timing now. Again, Loma realizing correctly, almost like double-checking his own thing right here, realizing like, okay, so now when I drop, right, unlike before, where when he dipped, Lopez wouldn't necessarily react to it. Now he is, right? I think that's kind of him like double checking that. Realizing that like, oh, I dipped and you jabbed. Oh, I dipped and you jabbed. Was it because I dipped that you dipped? And then he dips right there, and then Lopez dips right back, and then it comes back up with him. And that's why he blinks, because he's like, yes, that is what that is. You're dipping because I'm dipping. Right? So again, like gathering information, seeing how your opponent's reactions change each round is what Loma's in the business of doing right now so far. Still hasn't really been able to capitalize yet. And again, Lopez picking up the cadence of his movements, right? The speed of his movements, the frequency of what he's doing. And again, stepping kind of with Loma. Throwing probes out a little bit more frequently now as Loma's aggression is picking up to try to keep stuffing Loma and keep using timing to keep him at bay. So again, right, we talked about how Loma had peeled back started to peel back a lot of the layers of Teofimo's defense, but now Teofimo's picked up his aggression again and is now keeping Lomachenko at bay because of it. And as a result, you'll probably say that this round, I think, is mostly all Teofimo. And Loma's starting to try to find his way in, but is not successful. Again, you can see him trying all sorts of different stuff to get through here. Not a whole lot, though, working. So again, slip outside, come back in, slip, but he's not quite able to find an easy timing, right? Because again, Lopez throwing out this jab to disrupt. Because I think he's picked up on the fact that Loma's trying to set up stuff off the dip. And Loma hasn't been able to find a way to get around that jab yet. That as he dips, right when he would jab and like come dip and then come back up, Teo's throwing this jab out, so he can't do anything. So he's like, oh fuck, I gotta back up again. So then he's trying to step back in and either set up something or try to get Teo to go first, and it doesn't work. Teo doesn't bite, and then when he goes to dip again, that control comes back out, right? So you can tell Teofimo was kind of clocked. This is why I talk about Teofimo, the smartest people that Lomas fought. That he's clocked Loma's rhythm now of trying to dip, right? And making that adjustment and controlling it with this lead hand control and this jab, which is again why you're going to see Loma's like, fuck, I still can't do anything. So he's like trying to set again and backs up because he's like, damn it, can't get in yet. And Teofimo now, again, then he's kind of back where he wants to be, keeping Lomachenko on the end of his jab, has control and has like pretty much total control of the distance because Lomachenko's out of his range. Again, you'll see the little trying to mix stuff up. Like, okay, the dip didn't work. Now he's like, okay, let's see if I do a pump fake, can I get you to bite on that? Nope. And again, Loma picking up the pace and moving his head, moving again. You can tell because he got lambasted by that hook earlier that he's trying to dip and move a little bit more frequently or more often. And again, you can see fucking Teofimo. Now it's for sure, man. Teofimo's just doing shit because other people do it to do it back to them, just to fuck with them. So he does the exact same fucking head motion that Lomachenko did to him. He does it right back to him, which is so bizarre. This is funny, and again, this is an example of Loma being too cautious. This is Teo being like way too cocky. Stepping like right on top of Loma's foot, and right here he should have just blasted him in the face with the left hand, which is why you can see Taven was like, "Oh shit," and backs up, and then rips this right uppercut, right? Which again, right, is like why you want to probe. So he has this check and this uppercut, left hook. Again, that's so fast and instinctive. You can tell that that's something that they've drilled in the gym over and over and over again, right? And the interesting thing here too is, right, like this is Loma again, right? It's not true to say that nothing is happening. Now Loma is in his own range. He's where he wants to be to throw punches. And my first thought was, man, he really should have thrown a punch here. But you know what? This is why you probe. Because if he throws a punch here and doesn't probe instead, he probably eats both of those shots and potentially gets like knocked out, right? So again, like not unreasonable to still probe here. And I don't think that hits the chin. That might have hit the guard. But either way, like, kind of lands. But, right, like, Loma's still, like, you know, making progress, getting close to his range now, starting to peel back the layers. Right, like I said, this is where he wants to be. Like, basically stepping on each other's feet. And again, right, like he's showing respect to Teofimo because he knows now, he's learned something about Teofimo that he didn't necessarily know before, which is that Teofimo can still punch when I'm right on top of him, which is useful to know. But you can tell he's getting a lot closer, bit by bit, round by round, right? Right here, he could reach out his fist and basically touch Teofimo's face. And he's not in a position to punch yet, but he's in the distance to punch, right? He's in the range, which is important. Again, progress, right? And here, almost close enough to land. But starting to see, like, okay, now we're almost like on top of each other. Now what do you do? Right? And again, you can see Teofimo trying to establish this lead foot control almost now, not just lead hand control. Again, Teofimo timing Loma, trying to jab when he dips to control him, right? Trying to jab when he dips to control him. And trying to use that foot to form like a wall, right? Like we talked about before, so that he keeps his head away from Loma's hand so Loma can't hit him. So he's coming back up. And their feet are almost touching now, right? So again, like this is where Loma wants to be. You'll see by the end of, I believe it's the end of round 4, Loma really gets the range down. And you'll see he talks some shit to Teofimo a little bit because he does get his range, which is really good. And again, right now you can see him starting to push a little bit more and get around the timing of Teofimo. Ooh, and they both exchange jabs here, which is kind of funny. Um, let's see, or sort of like Teofimo throws the stiff arm, and again, right, that wall saves him. That foot, that wide stance saves him because if he doesn't have that, Loma just walks right in and hits him pretty much here, and he still almost does it anyway. But Teofimo, because his feet are that fucking fast and athletic, takes this huge step out of nowhere. I was like, all right, cool, we're out. Easy. And again, they come back to the line and jab. He jabs his control Loma, and again, I'm kind of surprised here that Loma hasn't clocked the jab yet from Teofimo. I guess he, like we talked about before with confidence, Teofimo doing a good job of not letting Loma take confidence away from his weapons, not easily just saying, oh, well, just because you countered my jab once, I'm not going to stop jabbing at you because I know it works. Right, so again, Loma almost just like walking forward in high guard, and again, you can see Lopez sort of doing that little three-piece bob that he does, again, kind of copying Lomachenko's movement and mirroring him. Walking him down now. There's one where Tim Bradley like freaked out and is like, "Oh, Loma like he's knocking him off the canvas," and it's like, no, Loma jumped to kind of like minimize the shot, and so he didn't trip over Teofimo's foot. But still, the point stands. This is a really good left hook. And again, Teo ridiculously, because his athleticism is this good, can like again throw the same two punches he's been throwing this whole time. Uppercut, left hook, right? Just changing where he's throwing them. He can throw this left hook outside and still get it. And let's see if I think there's an adjustment here, because normally, right, like we saw Lomachenko do before, he pinned the left hand of the body, but he didn't do it this time. Which is why, yeah. So kind of I think this time it's because of their alignment of their feet. He wasn't really able to pin Teofimo's hand to his body to stop Teo from throwing this left hook. But you can see he does try to like hold there to get control of it there. But I don't know. I mean, it's a punch. It scores. It lands for sure. But not like crazy. This dude is so excited. Oh, never mind. Maybe he's just like putting his hands back. Who knows? It's relaxing. And again, Teofimo trying to push Lomachenko off the line and doing so successfully. Really pushing him around the ring now. And getting him pinned back against the ropes where he wants him to be, and then just teeing off on him. Remember what I said before about how Lomachenko does not want to let Teo trap him against the ropes because he's going to fucking tee off on him? Yeah, this is him doing that. So on that right hand, check, 1, 2, 3. That left hook, pretty sure that scores. Pushes Loma back, again, also to like bully him, which this is the reason why. Ooh! Also, this is the reason why Loma generally does not want to be in this spot right here, because Teo is bigger and stronger than him, and he knows that. And he knows that, ironically, after this fight or soon after, or the fight after this, after he fights Kambosos and loses, Teo goes up to super light. It's a 140 because the lightweight is not as natural of a weight for him. But basically, all that to say, like, clearly he is bigger than Loma. So basically, when Loma's rehydrating, maybe he's going up to like 140, 142, and whereas Lopez is going up to like 142 at least, if not like 150 or something like that, right? Because he's just going to be much bigger. So Loma knows he doesn't necessarily have the strength advantage here, which is why he's not trying to just out-muscle him and why he doesn't want to be in these spots. But again, champion attitude, right? You get hit, you fire back. Boosh! And he eats this jab big time. Holy fuck, Oli. Boy, does he ever. Even though he just ate a left hand. You want to talk about clean scoring punches? Yeah, I don't know. I think that one's pretty clean and it scored. right? Despite the fact that Teo's been trying to push Loma all over this ring this round and has done so successfully. Like, it's not like Loma's not landing anything either. And that's why I think it's funny, right? Despite the fact that, you know, scorecard wise, like Lopez is definitely landing the cleaner, effective punches, or I think doing enough to win the rounds, the way that boxing's traditionally scored. But I think one of the things people were upset about was the width of the cards didn't really show how close each round was. Like, these are still competitive rounds, or somewhat competitive rounds, in terms of punches scored, right? I think maybe more than we originally thought. And both guys are using their game plan. And now you can see them trying to take, step 3, step 4 of each person's game plan and starting to really come into play. Teofimo is really starting to come into the groove with countering Lomachenko when he comes in. Again, which is why he wins the round. But in addition to that, right, now Loma's like trying to get those counters off. Again, right, like we talked about, throwing lazy jabs gets you punched in the face. Bang! Which is something that Loma had not done to this point. So again, right, like the punch was there, and unfortunately you can't really see from their feet to see if it was something about the distance or the angle or what. But you kind of can. That, like, Lopez throwing this jab in a place where he could get hit before, that Loma didn't counter until just now, right? So this is kind of what I mean when I talk about opportunities in the fight previously, where Lopez threw these kind of like weird probes or lazy jabs or what have you. And Loma was probably in range to counter or to throw maybe like a quick jab, a single counter. And he just didn't, right? And he does here, which is the proof of concept that, like, he could have done this before. He just didn't. Which again is why I think, like I said in the first bit, like this was kind of Loma's fight to lose, and he definitely lost it. Not to take, which I guess does take away from Teofimo, so I don't want to say not to take away from Teofimo, because I am by saying that a little. Although Teofimo put out probably one of the best performances of his entire career in this fight for sure, and fought his heart out for sure, and also did an unbelievable job, right? Like I hope that's definitely apparent too from the commentary that I'm giving you guys. So again, Loma throwing this jab, left hand right behind it. I think Teo mostly gets out of the way of that, but you can tell Loma wanted to leap all over him, but Teo got away quickly enough that he couldn't quite jump all over him. But again, you can see, look at their feet now, like right on top of each other. This is actually really interesting too. This is like dead even angle, which is kind of funny. Again, Teo throwing that high jab, trying to push Loma back. Again, I'm surprised that Loma doesn't. It's probably a distance or a timing thing. Still, right? Like he hasn't quite figured out how to get Teofimo to jab at him when he wants him to. Unlike here, right? Which is why here, when Teo jabs, yeah, kind of want to watch. I'm trying to figure out basically what it is about. What's the difference between this position here, where Loma punches him right in the face with a jab? Why could he counter that jab and not these other jabs, right, that Teo's throwing here? See, like, what is Teo doing that's stopping Loma from doing that Loma hasn't figured out? And I bet it has something to do with his feet, but let's see. Yeah, right there. His foot's coming up as he does it. Whereas before, Loma was on the line first and he was planted, I think. So again, right, Teofimo, really good timing. Not that, like, don't take anything away from the man. Like, that's why Loma's not countering him. It's not just because there are times when, like, Loma's not pressing more. Teofimo is doing things to keep him keep him at bay, right? Again, like interrupting his timing right there with a jab. Ooh! And again, right, this is why you probe, because this is maybe the second or third time, right, that he knows. And this is kind of interesting, because this is Teo adjusting the shot after the fact. But this is him kind of giving away the thing that we saw earlier, right? He slipped outside to the right, and then he ripped this right uppercut, right? And again, throws that right hand out to pin that right hand. But here, right, like this is right where Loma wants to be, for the most part, range-wise. And again, I don't know why he's holding on to his punches there, but again, a little gun-shy. And again, right, you see Loma trying to pick up the pace and getting, at least by the end of the round, starting to really get inside enough to get around most of Teofimo's punches. Or starting to get around some of Teofimo's punches. And that's an exchange right there that you'll see replay a lot in this fight. This straight left hand, right uppercut, Loma trying to get outside, successfully doing it that time. Getting away from each other. So again, not a whole lot that's new, I should say, in that round. Which is why we're kind of speeding through it. It's now into round 4. Right, again, Teo pushing Loma back when he comes back to that high position. And then again, watch the way he moves his feet, right? Left foot, right foot. This is the kind of steps he would take before, right? I was talking about where he plants his back foot, takes a big step forward with his front foot, takes a small step with his back foot, and normally he would just jab immediately, but actually now he's kind of like waiting and sitting because I think he's realized like Loma's trying to time him. And then when Loma doesn't do anything and the control doesn't come, then he moves his back foot, and Loma dips because he's like, "Oh shit, the punch is coming," but it wasn't coming because Teo's just broken this time, I guess, which is interesting. Right? Again, measured aggression. Again, Teo keeping his stance wide so he has that extra buffer and throwing that shotgun jab a bit to keep Loma at bay. Successfully again so far, right? Interrupting the timing. And again, now he's kind of still keeping Loma at the end of his own jab, which is where he wants to be. Right? Despite the fact their feet are closer, but I guess I actually probably should have been paying attention too to how wide Loma's stance is. Because Loma's stance has also, I think, gotten like a bit wider too. Because he kind of realizes that he needs to keep his front foot close to Lopez if he's going to have any chance of getting anywhere in this fight. Let's see. Again, right, as soon as Lopez sees Loma going backwards, he's going to throw himself right at him. Again, you can see Loma picking up the pace, picking up the speed a bit here. Again, right, taking like 3 or 4 steps to Teofimo's 1, and looking for that little counter. This is what we call playing the footsie game in fighting. In fighting games, where they're ironically also literally almost stepping on each other's toes. Right, look how wide Loma's stance is, right? Like I said, this is not really where he wants to be. He wants to be like tight and in this range. He wants his left foot to be like here and in this range, because then he'd be in position to attack, but he's not, because his foot's too far behind him. Right, which is why he's kind of just trying to bait out a shot from Lopez here, but he hasn't really set this up enough to be able to capitalize on it. But this is him, I think, trying to make an adjustment to counter something that we would see before, where Lopez would throw that like left hook over the top, and he's trying to see if he can get Lopez to do that again. And again, realizing like Lopez is trying to time him when he comes up, which he realizes he can almost get him to bite on it. So that's why you see him like dip up and down like 3 times here. 1, 2-ish, 3, 4. There you go. And then on the 5th one about is when he realizes that shot's coming and he does that pull. All right, so again, cool little like micro loop here that you see Loma kind of set up. Again, Teofimo steadily taking steps forward. Again, not giving up his weapon, taking confidence away from his jab. Again, little like pump fake, goes for a jab there. Loma avoids it because he's stepping back, keeping the range good. Again, right, like you see, this is kind of how he wants his stance to be, a little tighter now than it was before. And then, unfortunately for him, Teo's able to like push him back and keep him at the end of his jab again still. So again, Teo staying active, keeping him at range like he wants. You can see here, when he sees Loma drop that hand, one of the things now he's trying to do that's different than counter, he sees he's actually really trying to slap this hand down, which he deliberately does right there. But he also was trying to do it in the, you can see in the scene before this, right there, he's trying to do it. See how his hand comes back? But he didn't quite get it because Loma's backing up. And I think he's, here it almost looks, you can't really tell what he was going to do, but it almost looks like he was trying to slap this down and again weep in with the right hand. or slap it down and come in with a hook or something like that. Who knows? Maybe we will see him do it. This is kind of a weird interaction here. I kind of want to see what led to that. He just like stands up and walks right in. Best approach in boxing. Just stand fucking straight up on both feet. Just walk right in. Flawless. So again, right, we see them exchanging these sort of probes and head movement slots like we talked about before. Teo doing that dip down, right, left, because it gets Loma to move out of the way, which is what he wants. Again, right, it's effective. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it was cheap. He just stole it from Loma for free. Because Loma did it to him, and now he's like, well, I'm going to do it back to you. And it worked, so all right. So Loma backs away and is like, okay. Again, keeping that left hand right in place to dodge that. Make sure that right hook does not happen. Ah, there we go. And now this is Loma really kind of perfecting that pull counter, right? So this is what we talked about before. Again, like levels deep, like 3-4 levels deep. And it's kind of funny because I almost actually want to go back to round 3 to see if there's something in round 3 that sets this up. Because, right, like we talked before about how he saw that Teo kept trying to time him when he came up. So he kept doing this like up, down, up, down, up, down. And then on like the 4th one, he came up and looked like he was about to go down again and then stopped. And Teo tried to punch him and he pulled and countered him. And here it's almost the same thing again, right? He goes down, comes up, and then right when it looks like he's about to like come up to neutral, he sees Teofimo was trying to punch at him and he just jumps right all over him. And speaking of what we were talking about before, right? Like I said about he couldn't do anything before because his stance was too wide and now his stance is narrower. Yeah, look at it now. Look at how tight his stance is, how tense his back leg is. He's able to explode from here. So he's in position to punch. He's not just in range, right? This is what we talked about before. Like I said, I think it's either at the end of the 4th round maybe, that now Loma has found his range. And I don't think we'll see him lose it again for pretty much the rest of the fight. Lopez is not going to be able to do anything to really take it away from him once he gets this close. Although, maybe not. We'll see. Right, but you can tell. Not just in range, but now he's in position to punch because of how his feet are set. Right, and we talked about this before that he kind of realized, like, oh, if I can get set first before Lopez and get him to punch at me, I can counter over that. And this is interesting too, because this is like Loma again, right? Talks about like making people dance to his music or move to his rhythm, right? That he dips. And again, this is his footwork, really, even though he's not actually moving his feet a whole lot. But watch this right here. Right when his like foot is about to move, right? Is like Teo trying to time him, and now he's kind of finally, like round 4, has like clocked that that's what Teo's trying to do. And so that's why you see this immediate reaction of the foot comes up, down, and the front foot comes up because he's like, I want to all go over this kid with this jab to pull counter, right? So again, right, he's starting to do stuff to take away stuff for Teofimo, and I love this mean mug face from Teofimo right here. It's so loony. And again, the high hand exchange program happens. Again, Loma feeling the pressure, realizing that Teo's gone to the line first, really wants to dip outside. And then I think sees, can't really tell from here actually if Teofimo's coming forward or not. Kinda. But Loma, right, so we talked about this too, like Loma not just backing up now. Loma's getting more comfortable in super close range. Before he would back up, now he's not. Now he's moving laterally, or like slipping laterally, I mean, instead of just moving out of the way, moving back when Teofimo comes forward, right? Right, so he jabs and he just kind of dips down, but doesn't get out of the way, and then comes back up, and this time does kind of take a bit of a step back because he expected to throw, kind of resets, moves his back foot because he can kind of feel the pressure coming, and then kind of resets, takes an L step, and again, right, again talking about how the feet work, that even though Loma has chosen to, or elected, I guess I should say, to stay in this pattern of Teo being in the center ring and him circling, right? Now he's doing something that Teo is not, and taking control of something that Teo had control of before, where Teo would predict where Loma was going to be and step there in advance. Now Loma's like, okay, now I can kind of guess where I think you want me to be or where you're going to be, and now I'm just going to take this big L step and just get there. And right, he gets to the line first, and that's what he wants. And Teo kind of backs him off, which is unfortunate for him, or comes at an angle where he can't really defend, so he has to move and reposition, and then Teo like resets them basically back to a 50-50. Oof. And then throws this like spearing right hand. That definitely lands. Lol. And pushes him back. And again, right, you see Loma exploring this kind of, all right, dip down, left, right, come up, probe. What's the reaction? Nothing. He backs up. And that's one of the few times we'll see Teo throw that left hook again. Again, Teo does a really good job of like moving his shots in the middle of when he throws them to modify the target. So he throws this jab to the body, even though it wasn't necessarily going to be there, and then moves his left hook to throw it like up top, which Loma does a good job being responsible and getting away from. But then unfortunately almost gets like stuck in the corner right here, which is not where he wants to be. Which again is why you see them jockeying for position a lot. But again, you see this sort of return to this rhythm from before that Loma had in kind of like round 2 of this like up down, getting Teo to follow him, which is what he wants, right? So now he dips, Teo doesn't do anything, he dips, now Teo drops his weight, comes back up, Teo kind of comes back, goes back down, and he comes back up again. So this is Loma, I think, trying to get, deep in the layers and really kind of perplex his opponent here and trying to catch him in between level changes, I think, which is why he has this like 17 movement sequence here where he goes up, down with his hand, drops, comes back up, goes out, fakes like he's going to go down and comes back up again, right? Oh my god, this is almost too much for me to track. I think that's what happens, I'll put it that way. And then you see him do that, like again, like replay that motion right here. God, Loma, you've even fucking confused me. So what is that? Down, up, down, up. Oh my god, I don't even know. Down, up, down, up, down, up. So let's see. Up, down, up, down, up. Okay, up, down, up, down, up. And then he just goes back to one layer and just punches him. Never mind. So, Pro comes back to center here. Again, right? Tight stance is what he wants. So again, right, all those feints, we couldn't really maybe see it before, I guess, because of all the head movement and the way the cameras were positioned before, but all of this helps him to get his feet kind of, now that he's kind of penetrated a bit, into a position where he can actually like punch from. And Teofimo this time, I think, does also correctly, right, again, like we talked about before, like reads the important beat when the punch is coming and shields and gets away from it. So I see them both come back to the line. I think Loma gets there first. Let's see. He's right about the same time, actually. Which is why he kind of steps back here, too, because he realizes Teofimo could jab at him. This is him moving defensively. He wants to back up. And I guess Teofimo not clocking at that time. Not reading that Loma wants to back up. And now this is him sort of trying to, I think, experiment with realizing that Teo wants to attack him when he backs up, kind of giving him this like little backup, and then now he's trying to like, okay, now where can I time you off of that, right? But he's still trying to mix in these like level changes like he did before, right? Like up, down, up, down. Dipping at the same time almost. Both guys still. This time he doesn't really have as much control over Teofimo. Um, with getting him to react when he wants him to or how he wants him to. Right, because Teofimo is still very much stepping forward on his own timing. That lands definitely that right spearing right into the body right there from Teofimo, right? Oof. Like rips a left hook that whiffs. Again, sort of pinning him in place with that left hand so he can land that right hand to the body instead. And again, Loma realizing that Teo likes to try to jump all over him after he lands. Knows this jab is coming and still almost gets him with it. But not quite, because Teofimo's shoulders in the way, able to defend. Let's see. You can still see Loma trying to get that like pull counter. Where again, right, they're taking. Look at how small their steps are now, too, right? Like I talked about that progression earlier. This is one of the things I was kind of referring to. That both of them are taking really small, really tight steps now. Lopez has done that as well because he realizes he needs to keep pace with what Loma's doing. And it's also had the effect, again, like I said before, of him narrowing his stance. And again, Loma's trying to figure out how to get outside on the outside foot past Lopez. And starting to try to time that pull counter now that he's getting in range, right? Like this is really, I guess, where Loma wants to be, foot-wise. Is his foot not just on top of Lopez's foot, but literally right next to him so that his toe is on like Lopez's heel, basically. That's like how close Loma needs to be to punch. And he's trying to get in the range still, right? Because Teofimo has still done a really good job of keeping him at bay with timing. And pushing him, or keeping him out. And again, he's trying to test out that popping, like pull counter, but is not quite able to get it. Well, he actually probably could have hit him there. I don't know why he didn't throw it out. Who knows? Let's see. And again, right, like he's able to do this to sort of add layers to things so that Teofimo doesn't just walk him down like he was kind of starting to do. Although that said, Teofimo is still very much trying to walk him down. But again, right, like Loma is giving him pause because he's actually started to like counter him before. But it's just not enough to keep Teofimo off of him, and so Teofimo is going to land and score there as well. Oh boy, I'm scared. I'm not even fighting. Jeez, watching some of these shots again, you see him like throw the pump fake pull counter, and and then again, right, experimenting with the timing. Oh, what now? What? Yeet! And still misses, but Loma manages to dip out of the way and get up close, which is kind of what he wants. All right, there we go. He's actually really lucky he didn't eat a left hook right there from Teofimo. But again, now you see the speed of the engagement's picking up a lot more. And this is, I think, where he'll start to see, to some extent, right, despite the fact that Lopez is landing more punches in the round and is scoring and is winning in the way that we traditionally score rounds, right? Like, Loma, again, is getting very much inside. Remember I told you before about, like, chess pieces taking space, right? Look at him, like, running into Lopez now to get close enough so that he can punch. Is where he wants to be, and now he's actually starting to get into the range. Just took him a long time to get there. So let's see. Again, Lopez keeping low on the end of his jab, which is where he wants him to be. Again, there's this sort of simple pseudo like stutter step timing that Loma has. Again, kind of just probing to make sure that Lopez is not like reading him doing that, right? Which is one of the other reasons why he's probing, not just offensively but defensively to make sure. I think that jab actually from Teofimo scores right here. Bonk. Yeah, that hits him definitely. Excuse me. Oof. But again, right, Loma is now kind of figuring out the timing and the range and the positioning. Like, look at that. My God. Like, right? Figuring out how to time this jab back and get his feet just where he needs it to be so that he can follow this jab back, follow it home. Right here. He's like coming up but keeping his chest out of range. So he's actually literally like stepping forward as Teofimo's jab is like at max range and coming back. Like that's unbelievable timing, by the way, to be able to fucking do that. And then get around him and like almost parry that down. And again, Teofimo still, because he's Teofimo, can just wing these shots out of nowhere and still pretty much still hit you. And not like crazy damagingly, but still make contact, which is nuts. Again, right, the athleticism is unreal from this kid. Unfortunately here, Loma couldn't really or didn't actually throw a punch that would score, even though he was really in position to. But getting closer bit by bit. I wonder if this is the round where we'll see it. Now we see him kind of adding this other interesting wrinkle, right? Like building stuff off the jab, like we've been talking about, where he throws this jab and then slips outside, which is something you'll see him do a little bit more later on. Let's see. Whoop. Now you can see he's still trying to see if he can get that jab from Teofimo to come out so that he can follow that jab back. And that's why he's talking to him. Because he's saying, I figured you out, pal. Look at this. He looking at him and talking to him. Watch it on a Bravia. Boobity dibbity doo. So again, right, these shots definitely are scoring, right? Boom. Again, punishing him when he gets off the line. These like right hands to the body. This was that the two-piece chicken McNugget we were talking about earlier? Yep, that one does land. Does hit to the body. That uppercut and left hook. Oh, the uppercut did land. I forgot about that earlier. Boom, there you go. Who knows what mysteries they're saying in the corner. Not what we're here to find out, though. Alright, so round 5 now? Again, right, Tatum doing the mix-up. Hands low look. Does your chain hang low? Does it wobble to the float? Stepping in again with that kind of like slapping, half jab, half pinning motion, half catch to try to push Loma's hand down or keep that at bay. All right, so there we go, round 5. I wonder if, yeah, now Loma is almost like beating Lopez to the line, which is important too. I think that's something else that might have been happening last round, which if I was paying a little bit tighter attention, I probably could have caught. Let's see. Sorry, the analysis is slowing down a bit too, guys. Like I said, it gets a little bit more complicated as you get deeper into the rounds. Slash, I don't want to just be saying the same things over and over. Slash, my brain's getting a little tired. It's time doing like 4 or 5 hours of this in a row. All right, let's see. Let's see now. Again, you see both guys mixing in feints. But again, right, the distance is still a lot closer. Lomachenko's like touching him almost now with his feet. Again, Loma's still figuring out how to stay outside range, still staying like alert. Which is why he's able to dodge this leaping jab from out of nowhere. from Teofimo. Again, like ridiculous, this kid. Again, right? Loma also, right, instead of just backing up this time, is like tentatively testing that position a little bit. Now, when Lopez sets up that left hook, he doesn't just move away, right? He steps back inside a little bit and then backs up. Instead of just backing up immediately. Now this is interesting. Because maybe he's almost kind of realizing that Teofimo wants to mirror him a bit, and that he is kind of doing that. That he's starting to try to see the, again, right, really trying to get a rise out of him. With a lot of this feinting. And again, right, like, now the high feint. Again, pinning Loma's hand so he can't punch, right? And now level change, no reaction. So he kind of correctly like reads, I need to step up and back by a lot so I don't just get punched. Again, Lopez leaping in and knocking his shorts down as he does. And again, you can see now Loma standing right on the edge of like almost his own range, but managing to, or just feinting a lot, but not really figuring out how to get past Teofimo just yet. Or just past that jab just yet. And now we'll start to see something that Teofimo does that we'll see him do again, like I said, a lot throughout this fight, where he throws that right uppercut to the body. Even though it's on this really weird angle, too. Right? Just remember when I said before, like, it looks like, it's hard to tell, their feet are almost on a straight line in this position. And it's harder for Teofimo to throw that uppercut to the body, unlike before when they were on that, like, right angle. But here, he's still going to do it anyway and still be able to land it, even with Loma going around him, because he's just able to throw that shot, like I said, from downtown Brooklyn and still hit you. And again, right, this is what we mean by like layers getting deeper. So we've talked about how Loma's trying to like pull counter Lopez's jab, and he is. And then he pull counters with his own jab and then goes to slip outside, but Lopez is countering with that right hook to the body when Loma gets outside. And then that also definitely scores, right? Boom. That also. His face, oh my god. Punches him right in the pectorals. And again, like spearing, throwing that like spear and right hand to the body. Loma's still not quite able to get in. So I want to see here what exactly Lopez's timing to keep Loma at bay still. Right, like right when Loma starts to probe, he's like winging that hand, and now when he's probing from a high stance, is what it almost kind of looks like. When he comes back is when he's starting to probe from like a high stance, right? Yeah, looks like. And then there, he throws the uppercut. Sorry, let me go back so you can see it. So here, right when he... Actually, we'll go back farther because this is around where I saw that pattern. Right here when he starts to probe, shield and spear. Shield, right hook around the guard. And then right around here, stops, shift outside, comes up, dip, jabs with him. So when he's kind of noticing, like when he's trying to time him off of when he's high and coming, looks like he's going to come forward, right? This is one of the things we saw in the first round a lot that Lopez is doing that Loma was not able to necessarily get a timing or read on. He still doesn't have, and that's why Lopez is able to still keep him at bay this round. right, is that he's picking different timings to attack. Lopez is picking different timings of Loma's to pick at. Right, like before we said it was his feet. Now it's not just when he's stepping, but when he's dipping in. And when he's probing from a high stance too, because I think Lopez has maybe clocked what we had pointed out earlier, where when Lopez in this really high stance here, then he likes to dip, and that's kind of what I think Lopez has clocked a bit here. He's in this high stance, and this isn't a dip, but it's an attack. But the response, regardless, is from Teofimo is the same, right? Which is we want to counter here, because that's what Teofimo does a lot. He's really the counter puncher. And then here he just thinks he can hit him. Actually, I thought that there was going to be something there from Loma that prompted that, but it was really just Teofimo being like, "I think I can hit you. I'm going to hit you," and just diving in with a Falcon Punch to just smack Lomachenko in the man boobs. All right, let's see. Again, right? Down that hand comes up in the default space where he looks like he's about to come in again. Teofimo controlling with a jab, and then as soon as he feels Lomachenko start to back up, really surprised he doesn't throw a left hook here, by the way. And Loma circles back out. So despite the fact that Loma kind of really started to get really close to him last round, now Lopez is also again really escalating his game and or continuing to escalate his game, right? Continuing to find places to pick at Loma's timing that Loma's not really aware of to get to. Again, Loma aware of that lunge. But again, also taking a lot of really quick, small steps. And again, right, we talked about in one of the earlier rounds, because I forget which one it was, how he slips outside and then he puts that foot down and he can slip outside again. This time he doesn't actually do that, but he does take it to plant and then kind of step back in again and then step again. So sort of a 3-layered timing now of his step to just to get inside, right? Or to continue to move freely and not be predictable. And again, we see this kind of him trying to up, down, see if he can get a read on Teofimo's timing. Or a read on when Teofimo's trying to time him. And you notice it's kind of when he's trying to pause in this high stance that's when Teofimo is throwing at him, right? Which he immediately realizes here. And he's like, oh, let me control the space. And then, right, is now able to time it off of the punch. He's able to bait the punch from Teofimo like he wants to here. So that's why he slips. Again, right, we talked about the same thing before with Teofimo. What your opponent is doing is different, but the response is the same. I want to counter. In this case, for Loma, it's the same thing. It's, well, what he's doing is what my opponent is doing is different, but the response is the same, which is I want to attack. So, right, so he slips, right, the same thing, right? He's slipping a punch here and nothing comes. He's slipping a punch here, and the punch does come. He's kind of ready. He's like, okay. And now what he's trying to do is combo a slip into an attack. And so he does the lead hand control. He does the slip. There's no jab. But what it does afford him, because there's no reaction, like I said, this does work sometimes, is the opportunity to attack. Boop! Right in Teofimo's big old face. Not really a hard punch compared to what Teofimo's been landing this round, though, so that's why he doesn't win the round. But still creating the opportunity for himself to attack. And getting inside. We're now in position to punch. Look how tight his stance is, which is right where he wants to be. But again, Teofimo was really athletic, so he's able to quick leap away so that he can't do anything more. But we will see Loma start to build more on that in rounds to come as we continue. Let's see. Although maybe not today. I'll probably save those for tomorrow because my brain is Fucking mashed potatoes after 6 hours of boxing analysis. Let's see. Oh, and again, gotta love it. Now Teofimo doing back to Loma what Loma been doing to him with a high feint, low feint, and be like, you want to throw the high feint, low feint at me? I'm a high feint, and then punch you in the face. Right, high feint, body jab. First time Teo's thrown like, or one of the first few times Teo's thrown the body jab. This fight has not thrown too many of them. But again, you can kind of see him mixing in this, right, like probe. Again, he's kind of learning because he's realizing like, oh, I can't throw these just long kind of slow jabs, not long slow jabs, but like long jabs because he's adjusting to that, right? So you just saw like Loma slipping outside, getting away from the long jab, and getting away from what could have been a long jab here, and effectively countering a fake attack that didn't happen. But that's why you see, I think, Teofimo starting to make this adjustment of tightening up those probes, right? And there's shorter, faster motions now. High feint, long body jab, which would have countered what Loma just did, right? Let's see now. And again, tightening up the probe so it's not doing as much. But again, this is what Loma wants, right? Because now that this arm is not fully extended, this gives him more, gets him closer, right? Which is what he wants. So again, now you see him kind of coming up, down, trying to get Teo to throw at him. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And unfortunately, it's kind of funny because I almost think Loma's really just looking for like the same. Maybe he's not like looking for the same thing, but Teofimo is still paying attention to something that Loma I think is still not clocked yet, or not really figured out yet, which is Loma's own intrinsic timing. And like you said before, attacking when he's vulnerable, picking up his feet. And here Loma's not picking up his feet, which is why you see Teofimo not really committing to that a whole lot. Let's see. And here, he's continually staying in range. Yeah, he's continually staying in range, right? And he's like holding his ground and waiting to attack. He doesn't back off, which is, again, right, like kind of what you saw him maybe saying at the start of the end of the fourth round there. Is he's a lot more comfortable now. And look at him just like backing up bit by bit with his hands up, like waiting for Teofimo to throw. Yeah, and again, and then follow that jab back. And he couldn't quite get it because, again, Teofimo's like long arm timing is pretty good. But that's now kind of what he's trying to do instead of just pivoting around the jab or stepping in and then going above or under it. Is that now he's trying to like follow the jab back or sort of like shield or punch like just like a hair after it and then get into position and then follow up. And so now, right, this is another layer of the game, right? Now he's actually close enough to hit Teofimo. Now Teofimo's just like moving away. So again, right, like we see more of these exchanges where now instead of it just being Loma backing up like almost the entire time, now he's starting to back Lopez up a little bit more often, right? So again, like progress in the game plan. And Lopez is still, to his credit, is still going after Lomachenko, ripping these fucking shots at him out of fucking nowhere. Not necessarily with like a ton of success. But, you know, is still landing the more cleaner, effective shots and is still winning the rounds because of it. And again, right, Loma now, again, taking the opportunity to stop, feint the pull counter just to see, oh, what do you do when I do that? And he's like, oh, you lean back over your back foot, right? Like we talked about before, that uppercut, right hand uppercut, lead left hook, in that order that Teo had clearly drilled a fuck ton in the gym by how he was throwing it. Loma's looking for other things like that to see, like, okay, what else can you do or are you going to try to do? Oh. And again, Teofimo correctly realizing it. As soon as he backs up, jump all the hell over him. So right here, and again, right, like he takes the inside foot, which is what he wants. Right here, he realizes he has the clear lane to punch, feint right hand, feint jab, right hand around the guard, looping right hand around the guard. Ooh. And again, these shots are definitely scoring. Right hand, left hook. And again, Loma trying to get something back here at the end of the round. But, right, like, again, pushing Teofimo back, forcing him onto this back foot so that he's all the way on his back foot and has nothing he can else really do but back up and retreat. Um, so peeling back, one of the extra layers of Teofimo's defense of, sounds stupid to say it, but him just moving backwards, right? Forcing him all the way onto his back foot so he can't really do anything here because all his weight's on his back foot. So the only thing he can do now is sort of jab and back up. So again, right, peeling back another layer of the defense. And this is why I talk about, like, what I mean when I say I think Loma is, like, ultimately further progressing his game plan or further winning the fight, right? Like, and one of the ways that you can tell Teofimo is not necessarily a predominantly front foot fighter, right? Because if you saw somebody like, for example, or to put this maybe in another way, like the Plant Canelo fight where Caleb Plant fought Canelo, and Caleb Plant wanted to keep, or even Plant Benavidez, because that fight kind of went a similar way. Plant wanted to keep Canelo away from him at the end of his jab and away from him the whole fight, and then Canelo eventually kept getting more and more and more inside and eventually won and knocked him out, and Benavidez eventually got more and more and more inside and eventually beat Caleb Plant. You can tell Teofimo's not Canelo Alvarez and he's not David Benavidez. In that sense, he's not fighting like a. He's not progressing that front foot fighting pressure style game plan throughout this fight because he knows that's not what his strengths are, which is why when Loma comes to him, he's like, okay, you can come to me. And, Lopez has like the fucking fortress with the minefields and the laser beams and the tripwires and the tanks and the everything and the sentries and the snipers and all the traps and defenses in place because he's a defensive fighter. And that's what his strengths are. So he's like, you can come to me, and I think I have enough layers to be able to beat and to stop you, which is what he does do. He does have enough layers to stop or to prevent Lomachenko from just walking all over him for a time, and got ahead enough on the cards that he was ultimately able to win. But this is why, like I said, I think by the end, Loma really does end up like being the winner, even if he doesn't win on the cards, is that Lopez was able to try to like push him back a bit, and did effectively for a while. But by the end of this fight, right, like now he's still just kind of whiffing with these shots. He's not really getting anywhere with this pressure, right? This is where we kind of talk about like the limit of like effective, right, like effective aggression. That he's doing that, but he's not really getting a whole lot of results out of it. It's working, it's doing better than what Loma's doing so far, but he's not getting better results out of it, right? And even though he's able to counter Loma on occasion, right, and is still landing the cleaner, more effective punches, eventually you're going to see Loma be able to get around those counters and get around those punches and those defenses and figure out how to disarm all the booby traps and take out all the snipers and remove all the landmines and everything else to get past Teofimo's like 80 fucking billion layers of defense. And then at the end of that, Lopez you're going to sleeve. Lopez doesn't really have an answer for that. And he still hasn't figured out how to back Loma up and how to, like, do what Canelo did to Caleb Plant, where Canelo just backs up Caleb Plant and just beats the living daylights out of him, right? That would be like winning the fight and not just winning on the scorecards, right? Like imposing your game plan and you're on the other person and successfully executing it, right? So that's why, like I said, you can tell he's not necessarily like the best front-footed fighter because he's doing that front-footed style, but it's really not his thing, and that's why he's not really able to do this as well as certain other people are, like Devin Haney, who is a lot more comfortable being on the front foot, I think. Which, again, I'll be interested to watch that fight and study that and see the differences in how someone who's actually really strong on the front foot approaches somebody like Lomachenko. Another great fight if you want to watch that kind of dynamic, actually, if you have access to it, is the Fury Usyk fight. Oh my god, the Fury Usyk fight, actually, where Fury like took Usyk apart for the first like 8 rounds of that fight, or however many it was until he got knocked down. It was crazy. Although that said, I do think that Loma, despite the fact they have very similar styles, I do think that even though Usyk's IQ is very good, I do think Loma probably has one of the highest ring IQs in the sport, actually. Like up there, him, Crawford, and Ennis probably have some of the highest ring IQs. And Tyson Fury, honestly, have some of the highest ring IQs in the sport, which is insane. I do think that Lomachenko has better ring IQ than Usyk does for that reason, because I don't think that someone like Tyson Fury would have been able to foil Lomachenko. Um, but I do think that Tyson Fury is right up there with Lopez, um, except maybe even better, because I do think that, or maybe stylistically, his style's just a better fit. That Tyson Fury could beat somebody like if Tyson Fury at lightweight existed, he could beat or really give Lomachenko a run for his money. We'll never see that fight, obviously, because there's no fucking way Lomachenko's going up to heavyweight. Ain't no fucking way Tyson Fury's coming down to lightweight. Tyson Fury's bones make like a lightweight. You just take all the flesh off the man. It's just his fucking skeleton weighs 135 pounds. Basically, though. I mean, kind of, right? So anyway, back to our fight. Our actual fights. Where were we? Again, right, we see Loma continually backing up. Looking for this pull counter, looking to follow the jab back. Not quite getting it because Lopez is keeping him at range, or at bay, with a stiff arm. Again, right, we see Lopez doing that lean forward head slot, double head slot change this way, just to see if he can get Loma to back up, which he kind of does, although Loma's trying to contest it a little bit more now. And again, leaping in with these shots to, again, keep Loma at bay. And again, Loma testing that pull counter, right? Testing that time to see if he can catch him going back. Again, that shot probably lands. Those two shots land. So Lopez is definitely scoring the bigger shots this round. Loma trying to get to the line first here. Again, taking faster steps. Yes, right. And there he gets to the line first and tries to catch Lopez punching at him. And now just pushing him away. Right. So again, right. Notice where they are now, too. Like, Loma is not just stuck against the ropes. And that's why, like I said, he's not just getting, like, not to bash Caleb Plant, because he did a great job in that fight. But not just getting knocked out like Caleb Plant was against Canelo. He's coming back. He's executing his game plan. He's pushing Teofimo back, too. They are really both giving each other their best right now, which is part of what makes this fight so interesting to watch. And again, you see something that I'd kind of talked about before or alluded to before, right? The fact that this posture also lets Teofimo throw like the straight right hand and the right hook, which is what he wants to do defensively. And now you can see again, right? He's peeling back the layers of Lopez's defense and like we talked about before, or much earlier before. Where Lomachenko wants to peel back the layers of Teofimo's defense. A lot of Teofimo's layers of his left are counterpunching, which is effective, but again, right, there's a little forearm shield too before he throws his big right hook around the guard. And again, Loma, right, like not really getting super damaged by these shots because he's able to like lean and roll with it, but not also that, but just kind of like stay. I don't even know what he does here to stay out of the way of this punch. If he just ducks under it or gets his glove up and it glances off, kind of, and he like bends like a tree to just kind of roll with the shot so it doesn't kind of just bounces and goes over him, but doesn't really hit him, unlike some of those other shots, right? Boop. And now again, right, we see Lomachenko routinely starting to counter almost hilariously like he did to Linares, right? That high guard up, high guard up, high guard up. Jab lets him go first and then comes in. And then, ironically, that forearm shield now is the next thing he's running into that he's having trouble getting around. And again, like routinely, right? Pull counter again. And again, right? Now he's at the edge of range, playing the footsie game, lets the jab come in. This time now he backs up, though, because he knows he doesn't have control there. But here, he's like now kind of like, again, the range and the space and the timing, he's kind of almost able to feel it. And they both are. And you can tell based on how they're moving that right around here is like where they're like, oh, this is now what we're going to fight. We're going to throw. We're going to exchange. And he kind of, right? So which is why that jab comes. And again, right around here, that's where it's going to be. So he dips down, comes in a little bit, and then sees the pressure come back from Teofimo and was like, oh, shit. Again, right? Still hasn't quite clocked a way around that. And this is one of the reasons why I think this fight's so interesting to watch, because unlike many other how do I put it, many other times where Loma fights people, and they really have like a couple of things they can do well to stop him or to put in his way. Teofimo does not have just one or two things. That's why I made that really long spiel about the fortress with the landmines and the laser beams and the snipers and all that shit, because he really does have a lot of layers that Loma has to get through to get to him by the end of this fight, which we'll see him do. But it's harder for him, I think, for Loma to find a way around all these layers because there's so many. There's so many of them. Unlike most people, where like he is solving them, but every time he solves a new problem, Teofimo puts another one in front of him. He's like, bitch, I'm like a calculus test. I have all this shit for him. Look at me mugging him again. He's like, I don't like you. They definitely don't like each other. But right, and again, as soon as you see him dip in like that, my God, look at the fucking flex. You see him rip that right hand to the body, which again is a position we saw them in before. That like only again though, but like only 2 or 3 times, right? Despite the fact that Loma keeps solving all these things that Teofimo was putting in front of him, it's not enough to completely unravel Lopez because he just has so many layers to his game, right? And so, despite all of that, Loma has only, despite all the work Loma's put in, he's only really seen this little wrinkle where he kind of dips forward and down and in, and then Lopez throws a shot to the body or an uppercut. He's only seen, I think we've only seen it like 2 or 3 times the whole fight so far, right? Because there's just been that many layers to get through that that Loma's had to get through. So, but he's solved almost all of them so far, whereas Lopez still has not managed to push Loma back to the ropes and really hurt him at all. Even though he's landed some big shots. Or some decent shots, I should say. Definitely clean, definitely some effective, some hard shots. But right, in terms of like the flow of the fight, has not continually like unpieced Loma the way that Loma is doing to him and has been doing to him pretty much this whole fight, right? And again, we see this like up down kind of pattern that they're getting themselves into. And again, right, Loma now playing a little bit more with, again, right, like we saw, this is why he was getting so confident at the end of round 4, because I think he's starting to feel this now, that he's really starting to get into his rhythm, stepping forward, in and out of range, in and out, or in and out, right? And almost like overwhelm Lopez with all these feints, right? Something Andre Ward talks about. I think there's a clip of him talking to like Shakur and Clarissa Shields, actually, where he says, like, you know, doing all these feints, like, dude, that's exhausting. It's taking like 4 or 5 punches. Like being on the, like, just looking at all these feints, right, is mentally exhausting. And so, like, doing all of that, all that feinting, all that probing, all that other stuff to Teofimo, we're going to see that start to wear him down as we get farther on, despite the fact that Teofimo has an incredible ring IQ, right? Which is, again, the sort of talking about this philosophy I have that, like, the battle's really fought. It's like the game is played mentally, and it is won in the body, like on the canvas, like in the ring, right? But right now, mentally, like, Loma's continuing to get like the upper hand, or continuing to build and build and build on everything that he's done so far. Whereas Lopez is not really necessarily, I think, like coming forward or adding new things or doing new things and building on like the offense he's had before. He's just kind of adding more defenses in to make it harder for Loma to get to him. Again, that was a good uppercut right there. I don't know if that actually landed or if they kind of just bumped heads a bit. Oh, no, I think that did actually hit. Which is why you see Teofimo leap right back in there. Boom. Counter right hook. Oh, so that's funny, too. During that leaping right hand that he threw, he also ate a right hook to the face. Didn't notice that from earlier. Again, like I said, these shots definitely landed. But again, Lomachenko doing a good job rolling with the shot, getting away from it. That's his dad talking to him. My man, Russ Amber. Applying the Vaseline. Ironically, I feel like all the bruising around Loma's eyes is really because his gloves are hitting him in the face and not because he's actually getting hit in the face. Again, both guys championship attitude, standing ready to go before the start of the sixth round. Crazy. They're nuts. I love it. Take a brief pause right here. All right, so we're back. Trying to finish off round 6 here, which may be the last one I do today. We'll see. We'll take a stab at it. Again, right? Teofimo doing that classic. Just like immediately too. Classic. Put that hand up, move that back foot. Put that hand up, move that foot. Put the hand up, move that foot. Put the hand out, move that foot. This is like 4 fucking times in a row, the first 4 seconds of the fight. The 6th round. Gotta love it. So at this point, Teofimo comfortably, very much so, ahead on the scorecard. So pretty much probably won every round to this point. Which is why he knows that there's not, despite the fact that, there have been punches on both sides landing, right? Hopefully we've managed to show. Definitely not nothing happened in the first 6 rounds of this fight. Also, this is hilarious. But again, right, Loma trying to get close to that left elbow so that he can't eat this left hook, which he doesn't quite get away from. But again, right, Lopez is doing a good job. Much as I talked a lot of shit 5 seconds ago about how he's not really getting ahead and progressing his game plan, he is starting to push Loma back a little bit more here. And again, right now, Loma is able to push forward, but not quite able to get anything effective off of it. But he is getting even closer. Does step on Teofimo's foot there. Well, let's see. So now we sort of started to see him adding, again, this other interesting little wrinkle. For the first time in 6 rounds, which is why it's kind of weird to just see him do it now, of jabbing under his opponent's jab, which is something that normally he would have done before, I think, if he wasn't so afraid of Teofimo's power, which, to be fair, Teofimo did knock Richard Comey through the fucking, stratosphere with basically a one-punch knockout in the last fight before this to get the IBF title, so understandably, Loma's a little spooked of the power. But just to explain, that's why. Again, right now, Teofimo, you can tell he's not necessarily like a front foot fighter because it's taken him this long to do. But again, right now, timing well off of Lomachenko's movements here. This jab to the body, hook upstairs, both of which land on the guard, and then again, Loma not really taking these shots flush on the face. They're landing on the guard, along with that one right there. Correctly reading the second one being a hook, and then this being a straight right hand. But obviously not where you want to be. Definitely doesn't feel great. Probably basically getting punched in the face on your gloves. Loma easily though able to kind of counter this bit of aggression, the sort of straight right, and then falling Lopez back. But again, right, Lopez able to easily get out of range again because of his athleticism. He can take this giant fucking step here right after that weight movement because he's just ridiculous. Again, man, athleticism is crazy. So we'll see him again. Loma trying to test, probe, dip. Really not getting anything from Teofimo again. Lopez ever not the fish this fight, not biting at all on any of the feints. But we do see, right again, I think Loma trying to experiment with this jab up under Lopez's jab here a little bit. And again, taking that shot on the guard. Wary, as he should be, of Lopez trying to time him. So again, Lopez really trying to press forward a lot more this round, which I would imagine is probably what his corner told him. Yeet. big fucking right hand. My God. Luckily, that didn't really hit Loma's face at all, though. It just hit his arm. But still, really not great. Again, on the guard from Loma. Also, like we said, why those hands are up. And again, Loma trying to outspeed Lopez with quantity here. Up. The interesting thing here being, too, probably because Loma doesn't want to stick around and get knocked out or get hit by these shots. The natural counter to this, which is why, like they said, the big flaw in Lomachenko's game is that he doesn't fight going backwards. The natural counter to a lot of what Teofimo's doing, or one of them, would be to not like stand there and trade, but for lack of a better word, stand there and trade. But to slip or dodge the punch that you think is coming, right? Like duck under the hooks or whatnot. But he really doesn't want to stand there and leave himself in position to get punched by Teofimo. And that's always been Loma's plan, has been just don't be there to get hit ever, but especially not with Teofimo. And so because he's not willing to do that, that's why you see Teofimo just sort of like one-sidedly pushing Lomachenko back a lot here whenever he comes in with these shots instead of Lomachenko trying to counter. Let's see. Again, right, those sort of like 3-slot head movement and then backing up. That was scored, though. Right, so again, right, a lot of the feinting and probing and everything to sort of occupy Teofimo's attention and to get in range. And then once he's here in a position to attack, he does. Teofimo's not really ready for that because he was able to get outside of him successfully and then is still able to get outside of him again. So both guys, advancing their attacking game plan in this round. Teofimo again landing the more effective punches, I think, so far. But Loma now also landing some effective punches, right? Oh, this is nice. This is one of the first times he does this, actually, too. Which I'm surprised he hasn't done it sooner. I think probably because he was afraid of eating a right hook, but he's taking a calculated risk here, too. Leap in and, like we said before, jam the hand. And this is him really jamming it in there, where he sweeps that hand down and shoves it back into Teofimo's body and then punches him right in the fucking chest. And slams a right hook over the top, too. And is about to uppercut him, if not for the fact that there's that forearm shield coming up again, right? From Teofimo to block Loma and sort of, again, right, lean in, push him off, and pivot off of him, frame off of Loma and spin around. Right. It's like we said, we'll see Loma peel that layer back more and more. Again, the sort of high jab, pump, right hand move that Lopez has been doing this whole fight, pretty much. Again, Lomachenko kind of extensively feinting while in range here, trying to exhaust Lopez, and looks like he's starting to finally kind of wear him down mentally a bit. Just at least from my impression, it feels like he's not necessarily as alert as he was, or constantly like alert as he was maybe in the earlier rounds of the fight. Right, and so now he's kind of falling prey to this dip down, come up, in range, explode jab, and he's not backing up as fast as he used to. So now Loma's actually almost catching him now, right? Whereas before, he just kind of like leapt out of range, and even with him like jumping back, he's not quite able to completely get away. Interestingly enough, Loma eats a left hook here, but like ends up with his head in Teofimo's chest, which is kind of where he wants to be. And right, like we talked about before, remember what I said? Like he wants to try to avoid pinning like Teofimo's arm, and I was like, I'm just kind of surprised he did that because he could have eaten a left hook, and boom, that's what Teo tries to do to him right there. But Loma gets right up in his face, which is right where he wants to be, and Teo realizes that and is like, oh fuck, I gotta get out of here. So he's backing up, trying to push Loma off of him. And Loma almost catches him with a right hand there. with a backhand, and Teo throwing like a lead left hook. So again, like Teo or Loma really, I'm sure probably at this point has been getting some very urgent pressure from his corner to push and force the fight. Because if he doesn't, he's going to lose, and he does. Spoilers, because he's not able to push, has not pushed early enough, hard enough in the earlier rounds. But he does sort of force this issue more, and now, like I said, right, like in terms of probing, he's not doing that, or he is probing, I guess. Where he's feinting a lot. I wouldn't say he's really probing, because he hasn't really, or at least not successfully probing. Right, because he hasn't really, or maybe he is, but he hasn't really figured out a way around it, right? So again, right, like, now that he's, look at this, he's even farther in now than he used to be. Man, I was wrong. It wasn't his toe to fucking Teofimo's heel. It's his heel on top of fucking Teofimo's heel. That's how far in he has to be. Because right from here, he can actually probably could have hit him. And there, like, he's almost not close enough. But again, right, he's trying to time out. We're starting, I think, now to get the timing of this left hook, which is why he's trying to, right, like probe, and realizing like Teofimo likes to do this like pump, fake, and throw, which is why he brings his arm up here to sort of shelter from the hook, and then frames and tries to again press that arm in to jam him up. But Teofimo does have like really good arm strength too. And a lot of athleticism, so he's able to quick bounce away and frame and push him off, and again, frame and push him off to push that left hand back, which sort of works. And then Lomachenko is able to get his, like I said, remember before how he had that right arm out at this long angle because it also blocks the left hook with the arm? That's what it just did right there. He's blocking that left hook, or mitigating it a little bit. Like I said, I can't hear, so I don't mute the audio, so I don't know if it actually lands. That left straight actually looks like it does kind of land a bit. But that landed mostly on the arm. Right. So again, cleaner punch, Loma on that one for the left hand to the face. So both guys are now right in Loma's range, fighting now, right? And again, ironically, in this case, Loma again taking more risks, right? Like before, this is where Lopez would have feinted and then jabbed right over this, and he kind of does, but Loma just jabs like with him and goes right over his punch. Again, not as spooked by him now as he was earlier in the fight by the power, right? And again, I think Teo maybe not as aware or as on the ball, or at least maybe not picking up on it this time because he's not picking up on the timing Loma likes using when he attacks. Whereas before in other rounds, right, we saw Teofimo time Loma on this. When Loma would come in from a high stance, relaxed like this, either with a jab or control or a dip, or he would get it out there faster and control him ahead of time or pin the guard or something. But here he doesn't, and that's why he, I don't know if this lands, but like that's why Loma gets control of the space and gets on top of him, basically, because he's not doing that or not pinning his hand or not timing it like he was earlier in the fight, right? Which, again, like I said, I'm subjectively interpreting as him getting mentally tired. And again, we see these both guys feinting pretty heavily here. And now, Loma doing the classic up, down, slit. Again, Teo not throwing like really long jabs, only like probing. Again, those shots are kind of shortening up because he's had Loma counter him a couple times over them, which is why he's, I think, not throwing them out super hard unless... Caveat, like we said, he sees Loma start to back up a lot, like here. Although, again, here, right, like, I think this is actually him reacting more to Loma slipping outside, because he almost does it before he starts to come back, or maybe it's just the speed that he moves out, that he sees Loma move out at that speed and knows he's going to come back, that's him actually starting his movement to withdraw. I think it's also... I kind of think that's what it is, based on where they are too, right? Like he's right by the corner, which means Lopez knows Loma wants to get out, which is what he's kind of anticipating here, and that's why he's thinking Loma's probably moving back and away and trying to circle out again. And ironically, Loma does. He's even though he knows it's coming, he still gets away from him and gets back to center ring, which is kind of crazy. Ooh, and this is something that Loma has done to him a lot. so far, this pattern has repeated itself a lot, where he lunges at Loma and hits him maybe with like a shot to the body, and Loma comes back to center ring and then just punches him right in the face with a jab. And right, this is right where Loma wants to be, fucking like almost smooching each other. How close they are, lol. Teofimo putting him in a fucking headlock. And he's like, "Watch your head." And he's like, "Yeah, I get it." And he's like, "Don't put him in a headlock." I don't know what he says, but that's what I'm imagining. Right here, again, Teofimo now showing a little bit better control in the last 15 seconds of the round, controlling the space a little bit more. Again, high feint, low jab to the body, scores. Even if it kind of like deflects a little, because Loma's in like a bladed stance here. Ironically enough, I think this might have been one of the rounds that people scored for Loma, but not quite sure. Again, right, this is what I was talking about before. Look at where this punch is. It's like fucking past Teofimo's left shoulder, and it still hits like kind of hard, despite the fact that Loma is like rolling with this a bit and like mitigating it. Like again, right, you could tell this was a counter that they drilled over and over and over again in the gym by how fast this is, that he like drops this and almost starts like an uppercut and turns it into a hook. Bam. Coming right around the guard that way. And that's the one that Loma, I think, has not yet solved at this point, as of like round 6. So then there you go. There's round 6. Let's see if we can go maybe a little farther. Let's do round 7. Not that quite strong, actually, right? Because like we said, right? This is what I was talking about in terms of. Be interested to go back and look at the angle of their feet here too. But you can tell, right? Unlike the first time where Lopez did this, where he had Loma trapped in the corner, Loma's not trapped in the corner. He doesn't have the ring cut off. They're not at a 90-degree angle, so Loma doesn't have to come right past him and eat this hook or uppercut or whatever it is. That he is slipping past him and around him to the outside, and Lopez is not really able to hit him very much at all. Although he unfortunately just eats a straight right there, right before the round ends to the body. Lol. Alright, more ads. There you go. Free MMORPG, guys. Both guys, again, super ready to go. Let's see. Oof. Again, so Teofimo trying to time Loma going over his jab here and countering for the first time. Unsuccessfully. But again, good mix up coming in with like the high jab to body jab. Interesting, because I actually would have expected him to give round 6 to Loma there, but interesting. Or one of the other rounds other than just 2. But, like I said, I do think that Lopez has pretty much won almost every round so far, though. Like, traditional scoring-wise. Again, right, we see this classic feint, big shot rhythm that Loma kind of has down. Not falling for the hook, and again, Loma just circles right back around because he knows he can, and now has Lopez pinned back in the corner, which is kind of funny for him. Again, keeping that arm out to dodge the hook. And again, this is where we start to see Loma, I think, kind of just outpace Lopez, who has never really been to deep rounds in championship fights before, until this point. Whereas Loma has like fucking lived here in pretty much every fight he's been in. Which I think they even talk about how many championship rounds he's had compared to Lopez. Lopez has like 4 maybe, because he knocked Comey out in round 2. That's legal, by the way, that punch right there. I think this is going to be one of the few rounds that actually a bunch of people score for Loma, based on how things are going right. Again, keeping that hand out, covering the left hook, also kind of pinning that shoulder too, and holding his head there so he can't just come up and punch at him with his right hand, right? That's like blocking that weight transition. That's what Loma's trying to do there. Similarly to how earlier you saw Lopez use his left hand to hold Lomachenko's shoulder on his left hand in place when Loma was throwing a follow-up left hand. He threw like a double left hand, and after the first one, Lopez put his arm on Loma's left shoulder so that Loma couldn't throw that left straight as effectively. That's kind of what Loma is doing here, except he's putting it on Lopez's front shoulder, whereas Lopez was controlling Loma's back shoulder to prevent the punch from coming out. And again, right now, this time though, you see that arm extended even at distance here. That's when it's really just protecting for the hook, which is what he's doing. But again, right, this is where you start to see Loma really starting to overwhelm Lopez with just like speed and transitions, right? That he's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. First time Loma's actually gone to the body this like whole fight. Straight in for the body jab, I think, right? Right? High feint, low. Yep. Here I'm surprised he doesn't actually try to duck out to the right, but it's probably because Lopez has his headlock. But here, Loma's punching him, which he's allowed to do because that hand's free, so it's legal. And he's like, don't hold his head down. And I don't know what he says to Loma there, but Loma's allowed to punch him, so. I'm like, it's not illegal. It's illegal to hold and hit. It's not illegal to punch somebody while they're holding you. As long as you're hitting a legal target area, right? And again, I think Loma trying to go back to that, right? Like, again, raise that right hand, get him to jab at me. Try the position to see if I can get it. Not quite able to get it to line up. But again, right, like, look at Loma's activity, like, really picking up. You have to wonder if this was kind of almost like, not the plan all along, but kind of the plan all along, that he realized, like, he wanted to try to let Lopez kind of go a little faster in the beginning of the fight. And here, right, he's trying to measure out that left hook, or that left hand counter still, because Lopez is really able to like time him well in between his transitions. And now you see the way that Loma's getting around that is by just picking up the speed of his movements and doing little half moves instead, right? Like these little stutter steps, right? So he's slip in, this little pump step, this little small step here again. Looks like he's disengaging, but he's not. Comes back in, looks to follow that, jab back, but doesn't actually take a full step this time, and then is able to like half step. And then again, right, you see like we talked about before, him like thinking out loud. He's like, oh, after the left hook, I can come over top with my own. And that's I'll be interested to see if he does that later, and comes back to that, right? Doesn't get a chance to because Lopez just yeets his fist at his face again, but still. Again, Loma dipping down. I wonder if he went to the body. Did Lopez go to the body before this to set up this shot up high? That scores. That one definitely does. That right hook, that lands for sure. Behind the guard, too. It's again a good shot by Lopez. Oh, no, he threw a straight right hand. But that's still, opens. He's kind of realized, I think, or adapting the fact that Loma's really tightening that guard together when he comes at him. So he's throwing around the guard this time. I'll be interested to look at the trajectory of his right hand, too. Nah, he doesn't try to make it look like a straight right. But it definitely lands because Loma's expecting a straight right hand. Sorry, I never let anybody say Loma doesn't have a chin. Right? Because he ate that shot right there. Boom. Ate the uppercut to the body. Again, right? Like Lopez putting on the pressure now. Picking up the game plan. Round 7, right? So continuing to progress and land more shots. But now just letting, right, you can tell he's getting mentally tired, or maybe he's just kind of letting Loma come to him because he knows he's ahead on the cards. But this is just like lazy, terrible defense. Like, he just fucking stands here and lets Loma walk right up onto him to the point where their toes are touching, which is just terrible. And he gets almost punched in the face for it, which is kind of silly. Let's see if any of these are actually kind of like effective. Not really. From Loma, unfortunately. Again, good jab to the body. Hook upstairs. Trying to mix things up a little bit, which is part of why it lands. Again, people talk a lot about attacking the body for Loma because his upper body movement is really good. Like that, for example. Lopez trying to throw this like quick, crazy right uppercut. Again, out of fucking nowhere. As Loma gets around him, again, using that forearm shield like we talk about. And Loma has almost kind of effectively now, not I want to say neutralized, but kind of, not like neutralized, but has figured out how to get all the way out of the way, right? Whereas before he was kind of getting hit by this in like the chest. Now he's kind of gotten to a point where he's able to get close enough basically to Teofimo and move in a rhythm such that Teofimo cannot hit him with this shot, or isn't at least this time hitting him with this shot. We'll see if he does it again later. Loma's still walking into dumb right hands like this, though. Like, Loma, what are you doing? This is what happens when you just walk straight forward at people, which is what Teo should have done the first time, is just punch him, because it's like, dude, why are you walking right at me? Like, this is, no. And again, good jab to the body as soon as he realizes Loma's starting to feint and probe. I'm surprised as soon as he sees those hands come up for like high guard, though. Again, maybe this is kind of Teofimo switching back on mentally a little bit after the last round, like I said, about him usually being more alert than this. This is kind of what I mean, right? Like, he's taking advantage of all sorts of different things. And again, right, like, Loma's trying to show him different looks now, trying to show him like hands low versus hands high to see like, do you bite on that? Let's see. Trying to set. Right, so he's trying to like drop, set, maybe come back, follow a shot back, but nothing comes. He comes up to neutral, but nothing's there. He doesn't want to stay there, so he kind of jabs and takes foot position outside, which is kind of interesting. I'm kind of surprised he tries to reset there because that was actually not that unfavorable position for him. And again, right, now he sees feinting, trying to time out that left hook timing, which he kind of gets Lopez to sort of feed him a bit here. You can see it's a hook, sort of, based on how the shot like turns. He turns over the shot a little bit there, or turns over his hand. Not a real shot. Obviously, he's not actually trying to punch Loma here, but you can tell that that's like what he might have done. And again, Loma continuing to probe, trying to see what Teofimo gives him, but still not really getting anything out of him, right? High probe, low feint. Again, you just kind of see Lopez crouch down in what you can expect as his classic left hook, right uppercut position where you can throw both of those shots and then nothing happens. So he's like, all right, I'll back up because this is where I want to be. And again, that forearm shield here, what Andre Ward calls his prevent defense. That was the term Ward uses to refer to his own defense. I'm saying that's what Teofimo's doing as well here. Let's see. Slip. Teofimo again trying to come forward. Again, right? So Loma, again, starting to figure out the way around a lot of these shots. Crazy right hook to what would have been his body. He ducked so low he got under the shot, which is crazy. And I was about to say, I'm surprised Loma hasn't hit him. But he probably wanted to make sure, which he couldn't because he had to duck so low he couldn't see anything else. Normally it would make sense to come up with a shot here, but you can tell he's not because he's guarding because he doesn't want to get punched with Teofimo's left hand. If Teofimo throws a left hook right here, like he has tried to do for most of this fight, usually following a right hook with a left hook or vice versa, which is why that hand comes up originally in a guard, right? Kind of like we saw before very early on, even because he knows, even this close to him, he knows Teofimo can still punch, which is why this hand tries to come up to guard and it's kind of like bumping into Teofimo's hands and getting jammed up, and ironically ends up like holding his hand in place. And then Teofimo, then he goes to punch him and doesn't quite get it, but is backing him up for sure now, and definitely, and now he starts to land, right? Now this is where you see Loma starting to really kick it into gear. Now that he's where he wants to be and he can throw, which is in the hilariously, even though we prefer fighting in the phone booth usually as a saying in boxing, it means like people are fighting toe to toe and fighting gritty and ugly and brawling and whatever. That's really not what Loma's doing. He's not fighting gritty or ugly or brawling, but he is fighting in the range of fighting in a phone booth, and that's where he wants to be. Like I said way earlier, like his head fucking inside Teofimo's chest, which is almost where it is right there, is right where he wants to be, and almost where it is here when he lands both of these shots. And then again, right, dipping out of the way of that left hook like we saw before. Potential left hook. So again, him kind of weaving in and out of range here. And now he's kind of right by round 7, right? Like he's figured it out now. Whereas, like I said before, like Lopez has not really managed to solve the riddle of Lomachenko and, back him up and continue to unravel layers of Loma's defense and continue to damage him and hit him. And really, not in the same way that Loma is. He does make progress. I shouldn't take that away from him. He does make progress. But in terms of all the stuff Loma's had to overcome in this fight just to get to Teofimo, again, that doesn't win you cards. I'm not saying boxing should be scored differently than it is, but I do think it's kind of interesting to bring that concept up and talk about it, right? And like I said, why I think Loma ultimately wins the fight, even if he doesn't win on the cards. Let's see. Right now, he's figured out how to get into range, dodge the attack, come up, still be able to throw safely from a position where his opponent can't hit him, and now kind of almost let himself dip back out of range a little bit, then come in. And then Teofimo doesn't do anything, right? This is what I refer to as Teofimo being mentally tired or just tired. Doesn't react. He gets outside and throws that left hand to the body and the right hand over top and just clocks him right in the face. And again, backs up before Teofimo's left hand even comes up. Where he's swatting at it because he doesn't know what to do. Right? The low feint. Again, waiting for that left hook. Right? He's trying to bait it out. And unfortunately, Teofimo doubles up on it, which is why he's not quite able to get to him. Which, ironically enough, that undoubtedly probably hurt quite a bit. That is a good body shot. But Loma's like, fuck that shit. I'm not letting you stop me from being undisputed, and comes right back in at him. With lots of probes, at least. Ooh, the heads. We'll see that come up later. That's honestly actually probably how Teofimo gets cut at the end of the fight, right there. From the head coming in. Again, hand is free. Although Loma is kind of holding him a bit here. Although, to be fair, they're both holding each other. Loma just has overhooks. Bonk. And looking at him like, that was dirty. You held my arm and you punched me. And he's mad, though. He's mad about the head. Which will come back later. Foreshadowing, spoilers. Loma coming up over the guard. Again, for sort of the first time in the fight, a little bit hard to decide who you give this round to. Again, Lopez kind of mixing up now. Again, a different look, leaning outside and then staying low and throwing this hook as up jab to the body. Whoop. Again, Loma kind of figuring out the rhythm now, like he kind of talked about in theory in the very beginning of this fight with this up, down, and come over, right? You can see he has this little up, down, almost not even really a down. It's just more of a timing thing. He's repeating it to himself, right? It's up, down, up to come over, right? It's up, down, up, and then he's like, oh shit, I can't come over because I gotta back up because he's whipping a left hook at me, right? And here we go again, up, down, almost down, down, up, sets his feet and then comes up. A little bit of a different timing there. Up, and Teofimo intelligently attacking the body, but this time Loma, not being deterred, continues from here to get hits right, like I said, where he wants to be. His head in Teofimo's chest is where he wants to be. That's the end of that round. Eh. Harbor Freight, America's #1 tool store. Skip. Boop. Shoo. Nice dodge by there by the Matrix. Very, very nice, smooth. Boom. Boom. Two nice shots right there. Again, probably not as effective as that one shot to the body by Lopez, where he beamed a right hand like through Lomachenko's soul. But again, why Lopez is winning the rounds? But again, not uncompetitive. Let's see. Loma's gonna run through this man. Not really. This fight is about to be a war. Not quite. Lomachenko is always must watch. Indeed, he is. So again, we see them again. This is, I'm sure, his dad is yelling at him now to be much more aggressive in this round because he knows he's behind. And now we do see him be more aggressive, and that gets results immediately, right? That he's coming out and immediately like counters this soft jab that Teofimo's probe that Teofimo's had, right? Over the top and really rams a jab into his face. That's one of the hardest shots Loma's landed, I think, most of this fight. Boom. And again, right, intelligently getting under the follow-up. Right, this boom, duck, continue to move to weave away from the uppercut, and pivots back to this neutral stance. Again, really great footwork. Again, parry, dip, shoots the straight left. Now Loma's really starting to just like tee off. Let's see. Again, backing Lopez up. Now Lopez almost back against the ropes for the first time. Kind of pawing at Loma here. This jab is interesting. Again, though, Lopez picking up on Loma's timing and trying to stuff, again, the double pump jab. Loma kind of able to turn with the shot to mitigate it a little bit. Again, though, God, it's so crazy. His hands are so fucking heavy at 135. It's unreal. Right, like, look at this. Even though, again, right, there's this, like, right angle that we talked about before. He gets around him, but again, Lopez just rips this uppercut to Loma's chest. That's crazy. And then immediately throws again. Right here. Boom. Comes off of Loma's arm. I think that time, though. Telling him, I got it. Relax. Punch. Punch. That's why he's upset, because Loma kind of went head to head there. To be fair, though, he is trying to get his head into Teo's chest. And does stop his head so that he's not getting it super forward, but it's more like his hand hit Lopez on the side of the head, and then when he tried to bring his hand back, it like pulled his head into him. So they kind of headbutted each other a bit there. So anyway, now they're trying to box again. Lopez trying to push Loma back a bit because he doesn't like that Loma's coming forward as much as he is, but he is, as you're going to see, this is probably one of the only rounds I think people will end up actually giving to Loma. I think this is the one round maybe that the New York judge lady gives to him. Somewhat rightfully so, but like I said, because the harder shots have been Teo's. But not this round, they're not. Loma for the first time really landing enough volume to kind of win on the cards, to get results, we should say. Right. Bang. Snapping that head back with a jab. And Teofimo, right? There's that forearm we were talking about, right? Where Teofimo's going to try to basically like, just fucking shove Loma off of him, which is only going to work for so long before Loma comes back and is like, finds a way around that little defense of his. Mainly by just tiring him out, I think, but we'll see. So again, they're playing footsies with each other, but Teofimo is just not able to keep up with Loma's speed right here. Again, too much feinting and probing. Still using his feet to try to get in and out of range and maintain like a bit of defense and try to attack to push Loma back, but now Loma's just not stopping. And again, I suspect that Loma was kind of waiting because he wanted to tire Teofimo out so that he wouldn't have to be afraid of his power as much. Or who knows, maybe he felt some of the shots later and was like, okay, now I'm not as worried. And again, good slip for Teofimo, trying to do that uppercut to the body. But like we talked about before, right, with Loma, bumping into him to jam his shots, he really bumps into him, and that throws off his weight. And now Lopez is not really able to throw that uppercut to the body effectively. And that's part of why I think Loma is like so eager to come back in. Because he's like, oh, okay, now I've kind of figured out a way to mitigate the uppercut, right? To like nullify the uppercut. And again, Loma mixing up here, not just slipping outside, but slipping straight down. And Lopez not reading it and not going straight for the uppercut like he kind of had before, because he kind of realized, like, again, right, Loma realizing this sort of jab over the top is his sort of like way in, so to speak. He's trying to like shoot up and jab over top, and again, Lopez, the forearm shield framing off of him. Oh, God, that right hook is ridiculous. And right here, like I said, right here is where Loma wants to be. And again, Lopez just shoving him away. And he's like, all right, well, you can keep doing that, but that's only going to work for so long. And I forget if it's this round or the round before this that Lopez's corner was telling him to do this, basically, to use his forearm to push him away, to keep Loma off of him. Again, Loma slipping in, and Lopez not having any of it. And this time it's interesting, though, because, again, this is crazy, right? Like, Lopez hits hard, don't get me wrong, but oh my God, these shots are not shots I would want anyone to take. But like, Loma just eats both of these like right to the chest, and then is like, okay, now what? Comes right back in and probes, and now just starts walking him down. And Lopez, you can see in his eyes, is like, oh boy, uh-oh, long night. Boosh. Boosh, both those left hands land. Another left hand or right hand over the top. Again, Loma lets his little. Oh shit, I'm sorry. His fucking eyes, though, man. Look at him. Have a knuckle sandwich for your troubles. Loma saying. Against that right hand, obviously landing again. Pretty much almost at will here. Boom. Clocking him with that left hand. Loma is like, I will not be held. And you can ironically almost see here Lopez like mean mugging him like, man, why you hit me so much? And almost like, dude, we're in a fight. What are you talking about? Love the amount of sweat on this dude's neck right now. Teeing off Loma is this round. And Lopez trying to come back here with, let's see, what does he come back with? Right hand, left hook, but Loma kind of able to get around it, get under it. Again, that forearm shove. But Loma's like, nah, I'm not really willing to let that stop me. Again, trying to go for the right hook around the guard, but Loma reads it this time. Again, Lopez going for this like weird shovel punch. Almost like the uppercut he's been throwing, but changing the angle a little bit so it's like a straight uppercut slash hook. Trying to catch Loma on the chin coming in, which he's not doing. Again, backing Loma up, but not really able to get anything off of it. Kind of just swinging the air right now. Whereas Loma able to land like almost every shot this round. Again, another one right there. This is an example of a risk Loma has not taken this entire fight. That That's the first time he's challenged that position with that left hook, right, where Lopez had this lined up. And he can do that because he's in range and in position this time to punch. But whereas Lopez was not. He wasn't in position. Loma wasn't in position before to do that. And again, we see him back Teofimo up a bit here. Again, throwing that first hand out to sort of contest the jab and then following that arm back and pinning it so that he can't throw that hook over the top and ducking so that if there is a hook over the top, right or left, right, he's underneath it. Yet, interestingly, that's not what happens, and Teofimo kind of just brings his arm up. Now, this is really interesting. Even though it's outside of Lomachenko's, right, he, right, so Loma pushes his shoulder back, and he, rolls with it and brings his left hand over the top and still, pushes Lomachenko back with his forearm a little bit to try to mess up his rhythm and keep him from hitting him with this left hand to the body that he was looking for. He was looking to knock him out the same way he knocked out Linares in this round. That big, meaty left hand body shot that doesn't quite land. And so both guys are kind of getting stuck in the super close range now, trying to land their shots and not quite able to do it. But Loma's happy because he's like, this is where I want to be. All night long, realizing he's won the round. I think this is actually the part where Andre even exactly says this, and someone says, "Oh, Loma's," one of the commentators is like, "Oh, Loma shouldn't be slowing down. He should be pouring on the gas." Blah blah blah. And Andre's like, "Actually, I'm pretty sure Loma's winning this round, and he knows it. And actually, now is the perfect time for him to take a little mental break, 10, 15, whatever seconds, because he's way up on the cards for this round, and he doesn't need to do a whole lot more to win it." Because he already pretty much has it in the bag at this point. Can't fall asleep against Teofimo, though. Again, right? Like Loma said before, I know he's looking for that check left hook, which is why we saw Loma ducking earlier to get around it. Throwing in the mix-up, though, of the range of just kind of throwing the double jab and then coming back out. Not just, again, right? Not always rushing in, not being predictable. Oof. Big, long, sweeping right hand to the body. Again, whiffs from Teofimo. Again, that left hook was loaded up, so you don't see Loma go in there because he's not close enough to contest that position. He's a little too far away. Again, their toes, right? We talked about the progression of the rounds. Watch their feet. He's almost on top of him now. But even then, that's still not where he wants to be because, right, despite the fact that his feet are really close together, he doesn't like this look because Teofimo's weight's over his front foot, which means that Teofimo has all of his stance to go back still in terms of buffer, right? So that's why Loma's I don't want to come in here because even if I come in, he can still throw this left hook and move really far back and strike in this whole range of this next couple foot that he would have to cover to get to him, which is why he's I don't like that. Let's back up. Again, Teofimo throwing these big spearing right hands, and Loma just immediately takes center right back. Ducks out of the way of the uppercut. That's the 10-second warning, I think. Loma kind of just fainting here. And that's the round. There you go. Not bad so far.